Welcome. Every astrology video you watch on this channel is 100% human-made content, interpreted and analyzed by Brazilian astrologer Lu Gerodetti. Please enjoy, share, and subscribe.
On May 25th, 2025, Saturn entered Aries, marking a significant astrological event. Saturn moves back into Pisces in retrograde in early September, and finally enters Aries in February 2026, staying until April 2028, profoundly influencing astrological dynamics. You've probably already heard the phrase, thinking outside the box. Well, Saturn is the box. When you start studying astrology, you come across a basic classification of planets into benefic and malefic. In this context, Saturn is considered malefic. But let's set that aside for a moment and understand Saturn just as the box. It's both the structure holding your life and the structure you must learn to overcome and grow beyond. I can have a beautiful apple tree in a pot, but the pot strictly limits how much it can grow. This is Saturn. Saturn is one of the most powerful and mysterious codes that writes and supports the reality we live in, starting with the body itself. Saturn rules the bones, it rules the spine. And it's understandable that Saturn is so directly linked to the body itself. The skin is the clear boundary between you and what's outside of you, the visible limit of physical reality. And your body is your first physical box. When the soul enters the body, it experiences limitation and restriction. If you think, for example, oh, I'm going to the bakery to buy bread, your mind instantly arrives there. But your body doesn't, because the body has to go through a process to get there. And that takes a certain amount of time and effort, which cannot be rushed. Every time you say, I don't have time or I won't make it, that's clearly a limitation. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's just an excuse. That's all Saturn domain. Any problem with time is definitely a Saturn restriction. So, why is it considered malefic? I don't like that label because to me a planet can be both. It's like a blade, it can kill, but it can also be the tool that ensures a successful surgery, bringing positive transformation and healing when used correctly. It all depends on how the planet is positioned and aspected on the chart, as much as the environment where the person grew up, the education, family, culture, religion, and the personal level of awakened consciousness. But if we want to understand the term malefic for Saturn, we must delve into Gnostic traditions, where Saturn is the one who traps the soul within matter. Saturn is the demiurge, the world's architect, the lord of linear time, past, present, and future, the lord of limits. And this is important to be understood because without limits, you can't create form. Any object starts here and ends there. It's measurable, it has boundaries. But in this tradition, Saturn is a god. But the world he creates is imperfect. Even though he's the one making the invisible visible, his creations remains flawed and limited. If I'm going to make a clay pot, for instance, the force that turns my idea into something physical, something real, tangible, and solid, is Saturn. And since this archetype is the one that truly manifests when it comes to the Kabbalah, Saturn is linked to a Sephiroth called Bina in the Tree of Life, which stands for structure, the mold of creation, where formless things gradually get their shape. This Sephiroth is the Tree of Life's first feminine polarity. I personally connect deeply with this idea of Saturn as a feminine force, because to me, astrology's math holds the most valuable keys. I always dig as deep as I can, and I don't believe in coincidence. Let me show you. Saturn's orbit around the Sun lasts about 29.5 years, And the lunar synodic cycle, that is the time between one new moon and the next, lasts about 29.5 days. An astonishing cosmic alignment indeed. Binah is the Sephiroth, considered the cosmic womb, and the female menstrual cycle lasts about 29.5 days. So if I go deeper here, this video will get huge, but you already get the point. And now Saturn is entering Aries, meaning something new is taking shape, a new structure is being born here. So let's think together, because there are some basic concepts in our mental framework directly tied to Saturn, and one of them is maturity. What makes someone mature? The usual answer is that maturity comes with time, with age. It's the collection of knowledge and wisdom you carry based on what you've lived through. For example, you know that if you stick your finger in an outlet, it will harm you, but a child doesn't know that. And the finger in the outlet can be a metaphor for a toxic kind of relationship, for instance. You learn through experience, and when things go wrong, you learn, or should learn, how to not make the same mistake again. And that's what we usually call maturity. Basically, it's a mix of our past and resilience, because the pain you've overcome also brings maturity. With Saturn moving into Aries, symbolically, the old is entering the new, and here lies the key question. Who actually teaches whom? Does the old teach the new and try to rebuild the same structures? Or does the new teach the old and offer entirely new, unknown structures to explore? Well, right now, maturity won't come from past references. It won't come from the mental catalog that splits things into two columns. This can, this can't, this is possible, this isn't possible. The limitations you believe you have are being seriously challenged. This suggests a new standard of maturity, your ability to handle the new challenges and uncertainties that arise. Considering a new perspective, maturity will come from how you handle the unknown challenges ahead. Of course, astrology always looks at what happened the last time a slow-moving planet enters a new sign. We could check 30 years ago when Saturn entered Aries, but back then the world was very different in many important ways. We didn't have Pluto in Aquarius or Neptune in Aries conjunct with this Saturn. This is a completely different moment, presenting unique challenges and opportunities that shape our current reality. The whole celestial setup has clearly changed. When Saturn crosses into Aries, the past is finally over. I do not feel Saturn is coming to teach, because he also has to obey a cosmic cycle. And this cycle says it's no longer a time to repeat. Saturn is now coming in as a master of the forge, the one who melts metals in the fire, to craft the sword precisely shaping it. This is Saturn too. And Mars? As a ruler, Mars is in Leo. Mars in Leo gives us a king with power and courage. Saturn here is the craftsman serving a new king, a king who fights for what he believes in, what makes his heart beat. And that's exactly what we all want right now, a genuine urge to build a life that truly aligns with our heart. We're done repeating the past, no more old patterns, because somehow, even if we don't fully get it, that old stuff just doesn't make sense anymore. Everyone's life structures have been deeply shaken up lately. Our boxes were broken, blasted, imploded, and completely dissolved. This Mars was also in trine with Venus in Aries, the moment Saturn enters Aries, which opens a phase where we get better at aligning the power of our actions with our will, our desires. It gives us internal permission to fight for what we truly believe in and value deeply. It's like a strong push we feel inside, driving us forward fiercely until July 13th, when Saturn goes retrograde again. This is also a great time to harmonize couples fighting for something in common, bringing deeper understanding and connection. And it's a portal for a new love suddenly appear. Now, relationships will only work between couples who genuinely strengthen each other, reflecting new paths of awareness and personal growth, where serving one another becomes a bond of strength and not dominance. Collectively, I see this as a new phase to rethink female empowerment beyond the exclusion of the masculine, but rather embracing balance. It's also a good period for the reunion of the famous twin souls, twin flames. But let's keep digging deeper into Saturn's complex codes. Saturn has a deep connection with the number 6. It's the 6th planet from the Sun and the last one we can see with the naked eye. To see beyond it, we need tools and instruments, specialized devices to expand our vision. This tells us that for our awareness to go beyond the limits of our reality, we need an extra force, some input from outside ourselves. Your mind is where you set your limits and establish boundaries. And how do we to ask questions we honestly have no idea about it? How do we go beyond our own mind? Our brain is wired for survival, and survival always seeks the familiar because the familiar feels safer than the unknown. For example, if someone grew up in a home full of fights and abuse, they tend to have a real struggle having a balanced, loving relationship because that's unfamiliar to them and deeply challenging on many levels. It's a threat. So when this person ruins everything that looked perfect and wonderful, they're not turning a potentially good relationship into a toxic one. They're turning an unknown relationship into a known one. Now, going back to the number 6, I think I mentioned this in an older video, but I'll say it again because it's key to understanding why Saturn is seen as malefic. It's not just because it brings limits, restrictions, and hardships, though he often does. There's obviously a deeper reason behind that which relates to fundamental cosmic principles and the nature of human existence. Saturn is the architect of form, the force that locks the soul inside the body, chained by time's karmic cycles. To trap the soul, he first has to build a body, right? Carbon is the most abundant element in the human body and the foundation of all organic life on Earth. And the carbon atom has 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, and 6 protons. Its atomic signature is 666. And that puts us in an uncomfortable position. There's a passage in Revelation that specifically says, "Here lies wisdom. He who has understanding, calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. In esoteric traditions, 666 means trapping the light within matter until it forgets it is light. And what are we really trying to do here besides just paying bills, which is Saturn responsibilities as well? We're trying to illuminate ourselves, to remember the light we forget is already there. We're aiming to transform from carbon to diamond. Understanding this concept teaches us that to illuminate ourselves, it's more about remembering our true nature than suffering through challenges. More on number 6, Saturn has that famous hexagon at his North Pole. Maybe you've seen it. NASA has incredible photos of it. It looks like clouds swirling counterclockwise with a hurricane in the center. I think about this a lot because time moves clockwise, but Saturn's rotation, which rules time, spins counterclockwise. What do you think about this? And here's something interesting. In numerology, in the mystiques of the tarot with the Empress card and many other hidden esoteric systems, the number of creation is always 3, a triangle. Saturn is the master of consistency, of that which repeats through time. Check out this math. It's basically a no-loop chain, a solid structure in its steadiness, showing a pattern that never breaks or wavers. You draw triangles and then add numbers. Then you start adding the numbers. 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. 4 plus 5 plus 6 equals 15. And 1 plus 5 equals 6. It always adds up to 6. This is the math of Saturn consistency through time. Now shifting gears. Christianity comes from sun worship. The Mass is on Sunday, a Sunday. This is the sacred day for Christians. Judaism comes from Saturn worship, with the 6-pointed star symbolizing the link between heaven and earth, light and matter. The sacred day is Saturday. Shabbat, Saturn's day. In each of these keys I am giving 2. You can grasp more about Saturn. Then it comes the famous Chronos, the ancient architect of time, the coder of reality, manifestation, and matter. Saturn holds the knowledge we've gathered through lived time. But to say that it arrives in Aries to teach us something is like saying the early internet or ancient accounting books will educate artificial intelligence. It won't. Saturn arrives, Aries, as the work to be done for a new vision, a new reality shaping us as humanity at Aries speed, meaning violently fast, with no time to mature like we're used to, like we theoretically need to fully handle a transition. Here, there's no time for that, which tends to cause major anxiety and a sense of helplessness because our system is overwhelmed, with no time to adjust properly and process all the profound shifts we are going through, both individually and collectively. Obviously, I'm not telling you to just ignore everything important you've learned through all the challenges of the past 3 years. For some, it's been closer to 4. For others, 2. But even if someone says they didn't learn anything significant, that they only lost everything and suffered deeply, well, you survived after everything that had to die, so that now you can recode yourself for a new reality. And although Saturn is considered the worst malefic in Hellenistic astrology, from where Western astrology originates, there was once a Roman festival called Saturnalia to honor Saturn, that lasted 7 days from December 17th to 23rd. It happened at the peak of winter, when Saturn was seen as the god of agriculture and harvest. It was a lively celebration with lots of music, dancing, and gifts. Here they celebrated a god of abundance, even in times of scarcity, like winter. Saturn trims excess, but quietly teaches you that if you genuinely know how to sow and generously share, you'll never lack true wealth. Saturn in Aries talks about your responsibility in structuring a new life from the seed that survived after everything else fell apart. So do it in your own time, be patient with yourself, but also stay disciplined, because all the new things that are showing up right now, inside and out, are here to stay. Saturn says, be brave enough to take the steps you need, not as a reckless impulse, but with the responsibility and care of someone planting a seed they want to see blooming. Here we also deeply see new leaders emerging powerfully in the collective. Saturn in Aries is a clash. It's like trying to get a turtle to sprint. This means there's no time to waste anymore at all. It also points that everyone will want to build their own personal identity more clearly, and humans, by nature, when they form an identity, they naturally want to prove they're the best, the right one. That's the ego trying to validate itself, harvesting power and respect. On a collective level, this also signals conflicts over redrawing boundaries, because boundaries shape countries, just as much their autonomy and laws. Plus, identity clashes between old and new, as well as planetary sustainability movements, will likely gain more traction and broader global support. Topics like sustainability will probably get more ears and more attention in global forums, especially considering current trends. And of course I have to mention Saturn's most iconic symbol, the black cube. Here we enter a very esoteric, symbolic, hidden and ancient realm, and it's definitely impossible to cover in just 5 minutes. But if you research or hear this name in a conversation, you'll already know this is Saturn, the Kaaba, the heart of Islam, the tefillin in Judaism, the UN meditation room. the 9/11 Memorial in New York, the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin, presidential podiums, the monolith from 2001, A Space Odyssey. The black cube is a symbol of authority, demanding respect, devotion, obedience, reminding us of our limits and history in time, representing ancient wisdom and cosmic order. Saturn also appears in conspiracy theories, where they speak of a hidden ritual worshipping Saturn, supposedly practiced by supreme authorities who secretly rules the world and work now to install the New World Order. Bohemian Grove is a mysterious and highly secretive gathering, shrouded in symbolism and power, where theoretically these people gather and perform blood sacrifices to an entity called Moloch or Baal, a devouring god with a furnace in its belly, another names for the same archetype Saturn embodies as Kronos, the one who devours his own children. Maybe we're about to see these theories spark curiosity as people try to figure out what's true and what's false. Well, this was supposed to be just a video about Saturn in Aries, right? So why say all this? Because I want you to step into the symbol with me. That's the fascinating part, our ability to dive deep and grasp these hidden layers of the same symbol, a force now entering Aries, crossing the 0 point of our reality, opening new dimensions of understanding that challenge our perceptions and invite transformation. When you widen your view and marvel at it, you're lifting a veil that expands you well beyond the box we've all grown accustomed to. And finally, let's talk about CERN, a company I try to follow as much as I can, that has the world's largest particle accelerator. The company mission stated online says it is to study the fundamental components of matter, reality, and physics, to understand what keeps space-time cohesive like a mesh, connecting everything intricately in ways we are just beginning to grasp. That's all very Saturnian principles, as any attempt to manipulate space-time fields. With Saturn entering Aries, we can expect some significant new discoveries from CERN very soon. CERN, also subject to conspiracy theories, involves at least some strange rituals that you can find online, and its logo is graphically symbolic with 3 interlocked sixes representing hidden cosmic influences. But they could also be 3 intertwined nines, 999, the math that breaks us beyond the cube, beyond Saturn's limits, the alchemy that transforms carbon into diamond, a powerful and ancient process, which are both 2 versions of yourself. Remember who you are.